In this PIXLR editor exercise, we're going to play around with some neon editing. So we're going to open up an image of a portrait. It can be a portrait that you've already taken or a new one. And we are going to first either change it to auto black and white, or we can just change the saturation if you want to leave some color. So I think I'm going to choose saturation, click apply. And then we are going to go over to filter and add a vignette. Remember that we added a vignette when we did our vintage editing. We can either do a light or a dark vignette. I'm going to choose dark for this one and click apply. And once that's done, we're going to make sure that we duplicate that layer. After we've duplicated the layer, we are going to make a new layer. And this layer 3 is where we're going to do some drawing with our shape tool. So down here it says shape. You're going to make sure that you are in draw mode. There's design mode and draw mode. And we're going to make sure that it is not going to fill with a color. So make sure that is not selected. You can choose rectangle, circle, triangle, star, heart. And I'm just going to do triangle and go ahead and draw that triangle. We want to make sure that we are still on this layer, and we are going to go to filter and choose outer glow. This is where you can choose a color, and we can bump and play around with the size. We can play around with the feather. We can play around with the opacity. So I think I kind of like the way that that looks. And then we're going to click apply. And we're going to do one more thing. We're going to go up to filter and we're going to do drop shadow. And on the offset X and offset Y, I want you to play around and I want you to pick a shadow so that way this looks more realistic. So I'm going to click apply. If you are still on that layer 3, you can click the move tool and you can rotate and move this where you might want it to go. I think I kind of like this. And the last step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be erasing on our layer 3 so that way we can see the image of your portrait on top of that drop shadow and that neon glow. So I am grabbing the eraser tool and I am just erasing. Not only am I erasing the neon glow, but I am also erasing that drop shadow so that it appears as if my portrait is in front of that neon shape. So the reason that we did our background layer duplicated was so that we could erase on top and see what was underneath. So that is how you can do some fun neon editing with your projects. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Make sure that you bump your quality up, save it as a JPEG or a PNG, and I would suggest changing the name so that it's easier to find in your downloads. If this is something that you enjoyed doing, you could make this something that works for your pattern and repetition. If you take that layer of your beveled shape, and if you duplicate that layer a few times, you could potentially create a pattern of that neon glow. And you could go right back in, making sure that you are erasing and moving as necessary. So I just want to make sure that this one is touching. And then you could go back in and erase again where it is over top of the body. And this could potentially be something that you could use for your pattern and repetition. So just something to think about if that was something that you enjoyed doing. This could count as pattern and repetition.